Hello. Okay, first off, apologies. It has been almost 2 weeks since I've actually done a review. It's been 2 weeks since I've last seen a film in the cinema, even. So yeah, I've got one for you at last. I do apologise for the delay, and I do feel like for this one, for this review, I really need a cup of tea by my side because it's absolutely Baltic here in South Wales. It is freezing, and I don't usually drink tea. Usually the winter just to warm me up a little bit, but I'm not really a tea drinker. But it's absolutely Baltic. So we've got Tim Burton's latest. It's Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. And this is based off a novel that I'm not aware of. But do you know what? It's great to see a Tim Burton film in the cinema because it feels like it's been ages since I last seen a Tim Burton film in the cinema, and Tim Burton is one of my favourite directors. Now, from the trailers, to me, this came across as a sort of Nanny McPhee crossed with X-Men. I've never seen Nanny McPhee, but from the trailers, like I've said, I've never read the book, so I wasn't sure exactly what it was about. But from the trailers, to me, this was like a Nanny McPhee crossed with X-Men. First off, a big praise for Eva Green. I mean, for me, when I came out with this film, the biggest positive was Eva Green's performance as Miss Peregrine. She was amazing in this film. She was so good that I was actually like this when I was watching her on screen. She was that good. Maybe it was just me. But I really, really liked her performance in this film, and I really enjoyed her performance as Miss Peregrine. So basically, this film starts off. You follow a Jacob, who's played by Asa Butterfield. I think that's how you say his first name. But I fancied his performance in this was a little bit wooden. I wasn't really kind of blown away by his performance. I fancy he found it quite hard to show emotion. I just think his performance overall was just very wooden. So, you follow him to this children's home. Jacob goes to this children's home, which happens to be where Miss Peregrine is, and the children with all the peculiar, with the peculiar gifts. And that's where he finds out that he's got his own gift, and that is that he can see these things called hollows, and they like these creatures with no eyes. And do you know what? You see one in the trailer. I really like the design of these creatures, the hollows. I really dug it. It reminded me a little bit of something out of like Guillermo del Toro's sort of films. That's what it reminded me of, but I really liked it. But yeah, so then the film kind of gets more sort of complex as it goes on, and I gotta be honest with you, I got a little bit lost towards the end about certain elements about the film. I'm not going to go too much into it because this is a spoiler-free review, but I think it got a bit too complex for its own good, maybe. And the narrative I fancy was a little bit, I think it could have been handled a little bit better, maybe, a bit more smoothly. But when it comes to the performance from the other cast, from the cast that played the children, they were pretty good. I liked them. And I liked all their quirky sort of gifts as well, and you kind of see glimpses of what they can do. But that, again, was another one of my little problems, was you only ever really seen glimpses or little moments of what they could do. I thought this film was going to be a little bit more focused on the magical sort of side. I mean, they're sort of seeing these kids and these with their peculiar gifts and, seeing what they can do. And it kind of doesn't really... It's not quite as magical as I thought it was going to be. But I still really enjoyed this film. And, it was weird watching it because this didn't really come across like a Tim Burton film when I was watching it. Usually you could tell. You could sit someone down in front of a film that they've never seen and ask them who directed this. And if it's a Tim Burton film, they'll probably guess it within the first 5 minutes, even if it's just down to the soundtrack. Saying that, Danny Elfman didn't actually score this film, but I did really like the soundtrack, and there were slight kind of, I don't know, perhaps again it was just me, kind of nods to Danny Elfman. Maybe there were certain elements of the soundtrack that almost sounded like it could have been Danny Elfman composing the score. But yeah, overall, it didn't look like a Tim Burton film. It was a lovely film to look at, a very nice film to look at, very well shot, but there were only certain moments in this film that stood out, and you could like, oh yeah, this is Tim Burton. But it was a bit weird. But no, I really, really, really enjoyed it. For me, this was kind of like a Guillermo del Toro film. It was more like one of those, it was more like sort of Pan's Labyrinth. That was the vibe I was getting, but a Pan's Labyrinth light. So you got like your Coca-Cola, and then you got your Diet Coke. Well, that's what this was to me. It was like a Pan's Labyrinth light, or a diet Pan's Labyrinth. I've gone mad. So yeah, but no, I really, really enjoyed it. The person that I went to see this was actually a little bit disappointed, and he was really looking forward to it. But I had a lot of fun, and the one thing that this film did do was suck me in. I was immersed into this world, and it was great. I was lost for like, I think this film was 2 hours. I'm not quite sure, but I was immersed into this film, and there's a moment, one of my favourite moments in this film, and it's in the third act, and I would say probably the third act is the most like a Tim Burton film. And there's a scene on the pier, so for any one of you that have seen this film already, you'll know what I'm explaining or what I'm about to say. But I absolutely loved that scene. It was totally bonkers, and I loved it. I loved every moment of it. There's a quick cameo at one part, but I had a massive smile on my face, and I was like, yes, this is Tim Burton. If anything, that third act was so mad and so wild that it did actually stand out from the rest of the film, and at first it could take you back a little bit. I was like, oh, whoa, this is going really weird now. But I actually liked it. I kind of just went with it, and it just kept getting wilder and wilder, and yeah, I really, really liked what they did with that. I also feel that scene on the pier, it's in Blackpool. Again, I've forgot to mention, this is actually on the island itself where the children's home is. That's in Wales. I didn't actually know that until I was watching the film, and you've got this scene with a couple of teenagers, Welsh teenagers. By God, did I cringe. It's like when I rewatch my videos, when I'm editing my videos and I'm hearing my accent, I cringe, and I found it very hard to watch in the cinema, seeing these teenagers and these actors talking in Welsh, because I do fancy the accent is quite cringy when I listen back on it, but it was quite funny as well. But yeah, going back to the scene on the pier in the third act, it was probably, I would say, the most fun and exciting scene that Tim Burton have done in a long time in a film. And also, I fancy this is probably one of his most emotional films since Edward Scissorhands. There were moments in this film that pulled on my heartstrings, and I found it a little bit emotional. But it also felt like Tim Burton was afraid to get too emotional in this film, and I could feel him pulling back when I didn't want him to. There were brief moments, and it felt like he was afraid to do it. And I fancy this film probably could have been more emotional and making it a bit more deeper. But it looked obvious to me that he was trying to avoid that. But I like that. I would say this is probably Tim Burton's most emotional film since Edward Scissorhands, for me anyway. There's also something that bugged me. Again, very small. But there's these two twins. I love the look of the twins with these kind of like these bags over their heads, and you see what sort of gift they have, but it's more so towards the end of the film. And usually stuff like this do not bother me. I'm not this sort of nitpicky at times. But I don't know why, but it just stood out to me. But when they reveal their gift, I'm like, this film could have probably ended an hour and a half ago. Again, for those of you that have seen this film, you'll know what I mean. I'm referencing a scene in the third act, and it's when it's revealed what gift these two twins have, and I'm thinking, well, it's a hell of a gift to have, and I was just wondering why they didn't use it a little bit earlier. But anyway, I'm not usually that nitpicky, but I don't know why it just stood out to me. But anyway, again, going back to the design, I loved the design of everything in this film. The look of the film was really, really nice. Samuel L. Jackson, I love Samuel L. Jackson in almost everything I've seen him in. I absolutely adore the man. His look was quite creepy in this. He looked quite creepy, and at times I think he went a bit too far. He went a little bit too hammy to a point where he came across as if he could have been a villain in a straight-to-TV sort of Disney film, if you know what I mean. But no, I did like Samuel L. Jackson, yeah, but go into the creepy sort of aspect. This film, I believe, was a 12A. But every single advert before this film was an advert for a cartoon or a kid's film. So before the film started, I was actually sitting there thinking, are we in the right, film here? Because as far as I knew, this was sort of like a dark fantasy. And you know what? I wouldn't take kids to go and see this film if you're thinking about it. Because there are moments in this film whereas, especially one moment which involves Samuel L. Jackson's character and they are doing something and I'm like, ooh. And yeah, I definitely wouldn't take kids to see this film. I liked it and it was dark and it's something that you would expect from a Tim Burton film. But going in, I would assume you could take kids to go and see this, but no, definitely not, because there are moments in this which I think would upset kids. But I really, really liked it, and I love this sort of dark fairy tale, these dark fairy tale stories. I do like them, and I think Tim Burton did a really, really good job in this film. I've never read the novel, so I can't compare this film to the novel, but overall, I thought it was a very, very enjoyable experience. My only sort of gripe being that I wish it could have just had a bit more of that Tim Burton magic, which was basically the third act. But saying that, I really enjoyed the first two acts. And I think what would have made this film even better for me was if it focused more on the sort of time loop element, the time loop concept. And focus more on these children. And the effect, this time loop, the effect that this time loop is having on these children, and how they cope with their magical sort of powers, their peculiar gifts. I wish the film just focused more on that, and it felt like it felt like it needed to have this villain and have this sort of third act. And I don't, as much as I enjoyed that third act, it didn't really need it. It could have gone down I think it could have gone down a different sort of path. And yeah, I just focused more on this sort of the relationship between Miss Peregrine and the rest, and the children. But overall, I did really, really enjoy this movie. I kind of went in blind because I think I've only seen the trailer once, and I've never read the book. And like I said, it came across as a mix of Miss Nanny McPhee and X-Men. So the real sort of drive for me to go and see this was the fact that it was a new Tim Burton film, because I love Tim Burton, and I did really, really enjoy it. It's probably one of his better films as well, but it's still a film that has, it has problems. It's not perfect, and I could see why, I'm going to go to a Rotten Tomatoes rating now, and I'm going to try and do this in almost every review, but kind of, compare my view to what the actual result is on Rotten Tomatoes. And like Rotten Tomatoes is at 64%. I don't think it deserves to be quite that low. I would say it was, for me, I would have expected this to be at probably a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's gonna give you my wild sort of estimation of what I think this movie should stand when in standards. Where I would expect to see this movie sitting at in Rotten Tomatoes, and I would have expected about 75%. I suppose 64% is not far off, but yeah. So my result for my grade for Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children is a B. Overall, very, very enjoyable. I really, really enjoyed it. Also a little bit funny, but it was almost as if it just didn't quite know what it wanted to be, and where it wanted to go. There was parts of me that wish it kind of focused more on what it was trying to do in the first two acts, elements that it touched on, which was the sort of time loop element, that sort of concept, and the relationship between all these children and Miss Peregrine. And then you get that wild, wacky third act, which would have been great, for the first two acts as well. But it seemed to struggle with what it sort of wanted to be. But I do highly recommend it. I think a B is a fair enough grade for this. So yeah, again, thank you everyone for watching. I really do appreciate it. Coming up next will be a quick channel update. I feel like I need to do a channel update. just to let you guys know what I got planned in the next couple of weeks or the next few weeks. I feel like I need to start planning now when I'm going to do videos, because the main reason to why I've been so behind and I haven't done a video for the last, well, I've reviewed for the last fortnight, is down to, you know, I work full time. I've recently signed up to the gym, and so it's kind of hard, you know, and there's other factors, and so it's been quite hard to sort of fit the cinema in and get these reviews out to you. So I'm going to start sort of planning my weeks now in advance, and so yeah, I'm going to do a quick channel update for you guys next to let you know exactly what I've got planned for the month of October. And the month of October is one of my favourite months of the year, and I'll be telling you that why in my next video. Thank you again for watching. If you like what you see, please hit subscribe, and please feel free to leave a comment below. I'll be seeing you guys soon.